Okay, so I love that you were talking about taking a moment and asking your spouse, like, what is a good time for them in order to, have that conversation so that hopefully they're in a good mind space to receive the information, to share information, and to have that dialogue. What is like some advice you could give us for like creating that safe space for that type of communication? Definitely, I think time, considering the time that you
Absolutely.
to the person is a good tip. But what are some other tips maybe that could help us in creating that safety around communication with our spouse?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that's another thing I think a lot of times, especially for guys, they don't, they talk about what they're passionate about.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean they talk about just the things they love, but things that they are interested in and have a vested interest in. But
Right.
sometimes those heavier, weightier conversations, not only have they not had experience, we haven't had experience and we haven't had experience together. So we're still kind of learning what that looks like, what that sounds like. Some people, some couples, it's better to have it in the evening when the kids are down to bed and you ain't got to try to fight with them. And in the midst of all of
Right.
that goes along, I don't mean fight like you're fighting. I
Right.
mean, just actually trying to handle whatever it takes to make sure that your children have their evening set.
Right.
Sometimes it's okay to have them during the day when maybe they're on their lunch break and you're on your lunch break or something like that. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it's good to have them at the house. Sometimes it's good to have them away. So being mindful of when they're in the headspace to have the conversation and being mindful of when you actually have the conversation and trying to find something that kind of coincides for the both of you. And I think if you as the wife are ready to have the conversation at all times, that you're kind of yielding to your spouse that has a little bit of more of the challenge in
Yeah.
that way. And that takes you not being, it's sacrificial in the sense that you are foregoing your desire to make sure that this person is more comfortable. And that's kind of how we honor our husbands in that way. We are protective of them and they're protective of us, just in different ways.
Yes.
I think some of the other things is, during the conversation, at the end of the conversation, I tend, not only do I have a husband, but I have brothers. I grew up kind of around and interacting with guys. And I don't know about you, I know that women can be definitely stubborn. I think to a certain extent, guys have this kind of like leadership kind of quality about them that they kind of want to solve problems and handle business. And
Right.
so there's been many a times where we're having a conversation, and in my mind, we're actually having a discussion, and you're calling me to get some advice, and we're going to go back and forth about it. In his mind, he's already made the decision. He just
Right.
talk to you about it or tell you.
Right.
And so another part of the clarification is not just did I hear what you said, right? To
Right.
make sure that I'm not hearing it wrong or that you weren't trying to offend me, but also asking for clarification about how you are involved in the process.
Right.
So
Oh, that's very
this is,
good.
I'm calling to let you know I decided to, get these things fixed on the car, or, I'm going to get these things fixed on the car, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And my response can simply be, is there anything you need me to do to help with that situation?
Mm.
Like, how can I help? Is there something you need from me? Is there anything you need me to do? Because sometimes listen is what they needed you to do.
Yes.
Instead, let me go ahead and
You're
just
jacking that up.
and advice. I don't think you should do that to the car.
Mm.
Don't need to do this. We could do that later. Why not? Why are you going there? You should go over here.
Right.
This place is cheaper. Why don't you? I gave you all kinds of reasons why what you was telling me you go do is not the thing you should do.
That
But
part.
that's not why you called. So another clarification is not just did I hear what you said, but how can I help?
That part.
And giving a suggestion, but understanding ultimately, just like we are individuals that will make individual decisions that impact others,
Right.
we're individuals too. Like most grown men, even grown women, are not necessarily always calling for someone to tell them exactly what to do. They're calling for support and advice.
True.
And knowing that person, knowing your spouse,
Yeah.
knowing how they will receive advice, how they'll receive support. So if you're calling me and you're kind of in the crux of making a decision, how can I help with that? Do you want me to like help you think it through, or are what you get your own clarification for why they're calling you.
Right.
Because that's when bitterness sets in our heart.
Yes.
Called me. What you say? Resentment. That's even a better word. Yeah. You called me, and I've already fixed in my mind that you're calling me for this reason or that I need to come and give you an answer or a solution to the problem. And that is not why you called. And so when you don't take my advice or you don't do what I told you to do,
I'm feeling some type of way.
And don't
let you call me in the first place. Now I'm asking questions that I should have asked from the beginning.
And don't let me be mature and still not immature and still not growing in that area. Ooh. Don't call me no more.
Exactly.
Don't call me no more. So it definitely takes that intentionality and that presence to not only ask for clarification or reflect what they said, especially if it's something offensive or hurtful. But at the end of the conversation, try to provide advice and support. This is your spouse. You are a helpmeet. You are the person that's there to support and help what's going on. And sometimes they need you to do this, that, and the third. Right. Make a phone call, do this, whatever the case may be. Sometimes they need you to listen. Sometimes they want to know what you think they should do, but they're ultimately still going to make their own decision. Yeah. And because you've chosen to marry this person, and hopefully you either already have a trust for him or you're building that trust for him, because that happens too. Yes. You can be building trust over time. You're looking for behaviors that demonstrate leadership. You're not looking for the ones that don't. You're looking for the ones that do, right? So you can speak life into them.
That's
right. You're not ignoring the ones that don't.
Right.
To bring those to God in prayer. Right. You're choosing to look for advice on how to handle it. And then you also, in that time where you ask them, when's the best time to have this conversation, you gently go ahead and present maybe some of the things that maybe they said but they didn't do, but you do it in a way that doesn't condemn them, right? And that's the type of thing that we as wives are looked upon to do. They need to know where their blind spots are. But it doesn't have to be here. Like that's like,
right.
As a friend, you're gonna be like, all right, friend, like pull up.
Right.
But friend, I didn't know if you knew that this was here. Just in case.
Right.
Husband, you said you were going to make sure that we took the kids here on the weekend. We didn't get a chance to do that. Is there something I can do to help?
Yeah.
Make this happen? So you aren't ignoring those things, but you're looking for the signs of leadership. And as you build trust in your spouse and have conversations that kind of yield to actual listening happening, you guys both feel heard. It's not one-sided. We're just talking about the area that we can grow in.
Absolutely.
But the goal would be that behavior becomes a norm and an expectation that we listen, not just hear, get clarification, are present, and are reflective, and then also ask how we can actually support them in that thing that they're trying to do. So we don't get resentful when they don't do what we told them to do, because we might have caught them in a heated moment. We might have caught them when they were in the middle of trying. They call us first usually. They really do call us first.
Right.
So you might catch them in the heat of something. They're frustrated. They're overwhelmed. What you're getting from them in that moment when they haven't calmed down may be different. And so it's important for us to be present. And that I believe, in these 16 years,
go ahead.
Asking how don't do it. How I can be helpful.
Yeah.
Because I want you to be helpful to me too. I want us to reciprocate that behavior.
Absolutely.
And treat others as you want to be treated.
Right.
I don't want when I call you to tell me do this, and do that.
Right.
I want you to listen to me.
I'm gonna do better.
And ask how you can support me, or ask how you can help. I want us to be there for each other in that way. Yeah. And it may look different and sound different because you're a man. A lot of times they're going straight to the solution.
Right.
I don't have to be like you. I don't want to be like you. I want to be me.
Right.
I want to be a wife. So let me stay in my role and my part. Let me work on being a listener that is intentional about trying to support and understand my mate.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so those are some absolutely amazing ways to create that safe space. How can we incorporate prayer in our conversations, or at least the guidance of prayer when we
Absolutely.
have these type of conversations with our spouse? Because a lot of times when conversations get where people start, like you said, listening or defensive and aren't really listening, but they're just hearing, those are generally deep things. That's not
Yeah.
can you take the food out of the oven or
Right.
something simple like that. Those are usually those deeper conversations. And when those deeper conversations are coming into play, how can we incorporate prayer to kind of give us some guidance with that?
Absolutely. As an individual, as a wife, once again, I believe that we should be bringing a lot of the things that are concerning to us to the Lord in prayer,
Absolutely.
right? So we should be uplifting our husband, the book, The Power of the Praying Wife, and all these different areas in which we're praying for our spouse, for our husband. I think a lot of times we bring it to them.
Yeah.
We don't bring it to the Lord.
Right.
And so I saw a quote one time that said, it was dealing with the kids, but this concept is the same.
Okay.
Bring it to the Lord more than you bring it to that person.
Come on.
Right. So you're using your connection and your relationship with God. But here's the thing, like any relationship, it shouldn't be one-sided. So you're not only coming to God just to complain about your spouse. I don't know, but I personally wouldn't want to be in a relationship where the only time I hear from my friend is for her to call and complain about her husband.
Right.
So that relationship with God is not predicated on this is the only time you go to God. It's a part of your healthy prayer life that's balanced, that has listening. The meditation part is where it's the talking and the prayer part.
Uh-huh.
That's one piece and one avenue. Another thing I believe is when you're going to have a weighty conversation, maybe trying to enter that conversation in prayer.
Yeah.
Maybe outside in nature where things are a little bit calmer than maybe inside. Like try to bring yourself into as much peace as possible, especially when you're dealing with weighty things. You're trying to create the best environment
right
for the conversation. And that means asking him when he's available to have the conversation. So you're not catching him as he's rushing out the door or just got in. You're also being mindful of being present and intentional. And then you're asking and inviting or deciding to pray, whether together, depends on where you and your spouse's relationship is with God. Like he may not be there yet. You may have to pray before you have the conversation. We know we don't talk on Saturday. Let me make sure I pray about it. But if you can pray together, that sets an atmosphere. That sets a tone. You can start and end with prayer. And that it sets a tone of really inviting the Holy Spirit. It's this 3-person relationship into that space, so that presence is there to try to help diffuse some of that, to remind you of those things that maybe you heard before, the messages, the books you've read, all this information you've acquired reading the Bible, to help you bring into a space where this conversation can be more beneficial, more healthy, more productive than the last one. We're just growing in faith. So it's not about those other conversations, it's about how we can move these conversations further.
I love that. So the Bible says in James 1:19 that everyone should be quick to listen and slow to speak, and also slow to anger. So I want to hear, tell me, give us a little bit more about when it comes to listening, kind of the thought process that people have when they are having a conversation or wanting a person to listen to them.
So I've been privy to listen to a lot of people have conversations in so many different atmospheres. And I think it's actually quite, I don't want to say entertaining. It's like, I like it because if a couple or 2 people, it could be 2 coworkers or whatever, are having a conversation and they can't quite get it, doesn't mean they're going to agree. I'm just saying they can't even have the conversation in a way that's productive. I'm ready to intervene. Like that's, my background is teaching. So how can I teach or help coach in skills that can help this process look better? You have to be dedicated to actually applying the skills, because you actually have to listen to what's being taught to you. But most people will listen because they want the other person to listen to. In my mind, I have never met anybody that talks and doesn't want to be listened to, doesn't want to be heard in a way that makes them feel validated. I don't know no man, no woman, no child, anybody that's going to open up their mouth to speak and doesn't care that the other person is not listening. Right. They may get used to it. That's not their desire. Everybody wants to be heard.
Right.
So I definitely feel like as wives, we have a responsibility when it comes to listening and the ability to kind of model certain behaviors. I think that a lot of times when you hear guys, you watching podcasts, you watching shows, you listen to men just in general, and they're like, oh, she won't listen to me. My wife don't never listen to me. She just don't listen. It's like, okay, I get it. She's not listening to you. Now, there's a few different forms of that listening. Some people feel like if you're listening to me, you'll do exactly what I tell you to do. That's not true. That's not a true representation of listening, right? Because I understand you. I hear what you're saying. I want to support you, but it doesn't mean that my behavior is going to change.
Right.
It doesn't.
And conversation does not constitute a change.
It doesn't. And you don't even have that power.
Nope.
We read the book Boundaries, remember? Mm-hmm. God doesn't even, yield his power to speak or to write the word and make you change. Right. Your heart has to have a certain desire to actually do it.
Right.
So you actually have to have the desire to actually start listening to what the other person is saying. That's not just wives, that's wives and husbands. Yes. Remember, we're starting with ourselves because that's what we have the power to change, and then using our behavior to have positive influence on others around us. That's we right. can't make them change. They could choose to never change.
Right.
Are we comfortable? Do we believe that God is calling us up higher? Right. And if that's the case, then we get to choose if we're going to respond. Yeah. I personally, like I said, I was kicking and screaming about that marriage retreat.
Yeah.
I didn't really want to go. Right. But I did. And once I got there, my heart changed towards it and ended up being so pivotal.
Right.
There's been other things like that where I kind of fought it. Like, I don't really want to. But once I get there, there we go. So some of it is just actually stepping that 1 foot forward, or open up the door to therapy, or open up the door to something where someone can help you. Right. But most of the time, you got some groups of people who think that because I'm communicating effectively, that person's going to do exactly what I want them to do. And that is not the case. Right. We're talking about husbands and she don't listen to you. I know you're looking for action. I know you're looking for her to do certain things.
Right.
Doesn't necessarily institute that. It develops over time, I believe. I think it develops through trust and through experiences.
Absolutely.
It has to do with who we choose to surround ourselves with, what messages we're getting constantly kind of fed to us.
Yes.
So it is a little bit of a battle because we're fighting our own desire to do what we want to do, our own flesh to stay the same, to not change, to not get better, right?
Yeah.
We're kind of fighting some of that. And I think my way is right, and how we were raised, and all those combinations of the things. But now you guys are together in a marriage. You have a union together, and you get to make a choice about how that union looks going forward. Right. You're not going to be able to talk and make someone do something. They always have a choice.
Yeah.
Our kids have a choice.
Yep.
that we are letting them do whatever they want. If I say go lay down, unless I'm physically putting them down, they have to choose to listen to my voice.
Right.
Choose to honor me.
Right.
An employee has a choice. Their choice may be to just follow the rules and not follow the boss.
Yes.
It has a choice. A husband has a choice.
Wait, give your infamous quote.
What?
Plant.
Some plant, some water. That's my verse.
Yes, that's your verse.
In my mind, I thought that my position was some plant, some water, God gives the increase. That's a verse in the Bible. I think it's in Colossians. And it helped me to understand that sometimes when I'm teaching students, it may not click for them right then. It may happen the next year, the year after that. So I love seeing my students that were older that would come back. The same is true of the word of God. We talk about the sower, and the seed, and so we have these different soils. So we keep having these conversations. We keep encouraging people to seek out resources because you're shifting something that's been embedded for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And if your mindset, let's just say as a wife, is he ain't going to tell me what to do, then you're kind of modeling that behavior. And when you're having a conversation, you're hearing them, but you're not listening because you're already intent on doing what you want to do.
Right.
A husband is having a conversation and my words mean she's going to act a certain way, then you already have a certain mindset and mind shift. I want this person to hear my heart. To me, that's the goal in a conversation. I want them to hear my heart in this. And when they get to know me, when they hear my heart, and when we have these interactions over time, we have this trust, we have this understanding, and it makes it a safer space to have a conversation where I say, listen, there's some things I want to talk about. And I want to make sure that you are at it's the right space and time for you to have them. Right. I want to pray about it before. And I'm going to do my best in this conversation to listen to what you're saying, be present. If I need to clarify, if I need to be reflective and say something back or be reflective of my own behavior. Oh, so what you're saying is when I decided to go shopping and I'm a hit dog holler. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
We talked about the budget.
Right.
That my behavior made you feel as if I wasn't respecting the conversation we had.
Right.
You're reflecting on your behavior, reflecting and clarifying what they said, right? And you're saying, so how can I help in the future? What can I do going forward? You cannot change the past, but you can be intentional about how to move forward. And you can take ownership and accountability of those actions. You can ask your girlfriends to be accountable. Right now you're not supposed to be shopping, I'm not going to be co-signing when you're on the phone telling me you're going shopping. Right. Or whatever the case may be. It can be that. It can be going out versus staying home. Right. It can be how much quality time you spend with your mate. It just be a number of things. Again, I'm not letting the guys off the hook. I ain't doing that. I got 3 sons. But we're talking about ourselves. Right. And because we know that boundaries exist, we are the only people we have control over changing.
That part.
And the Bible talks about our light, right? We're not putting that light, that candle under a lampshade. We're putting it up for it to be seen. Let our behavior, let our actions influence others.
Yes.
So in the case, we start with us. Yeah, later on.
They'll get. Yeah, right. It'll catch on. It'll catch on.
Yeah. That's the hope. Some plant, some water. God gives the increase.
Right.
So if I do what I'm supposed to do, it'll be up to God working on them, working on their heart, them seeing it, and seeing that change and that growth. Because most of us, that's an area of growth for us.
Yes. Converted over here.
For me. No, just kidding.
Right. It is. It absolutely is. It is. Wow. Oh, I'm so glad that you joined me today. I'm so excited about our series that we're going to be doing for the full month of February. We're talking about real love. So we're dealing with issues that real relationships have, and we're just going to be giving some insight, giving you some nuggets. Hopefully, everyone is, really paying attention, listening very well. So that
here, y'all.
Right. So they can walk away and have stronger relationships at the end of this month, not just have given a gift to their spouse tangibly, but can also now grow in character so that they can give their spouse a better version of themselves. Not just their spouse, any relationship that they're in, their friends, their family members, a better version of themselves because they've grown in character based on learning things like being a better listener. So well, once again, I'm super excited you were here. I know that it's going to be an amazing month, and I am so looking forward to the next time we chat.